Catherine Berbel-Singh, of course, the government's social mobility czar, has insisted that white teachers should teach the national anthem to children who are from an ethnic minority background, even if they feel uncomfortable. In a lecture at the University of Oxford, she said the teaching of basic cultural knowledge can be even worse with ethnic minority children, because the thinking is that ethnic minority children cannot identify with so-called white things. Well, joining me to discuss this, I'm delighted to say, is a social policy analyst, Dr. Rakib Ehsan. Rakib, thank you for your time. I'm wondering, I don't understand this idea that there can possibly be such a thing as white things when it comes to nationhood and the national anthem.
Oh, I think it's absolutely remarkable, Darren. I think it tells you how low the quality of debate is when it comes to these kind of issues. I'm completely with Catherine Berbel-Singh, who is the founder and headmistress of the Michaela School based in Wembley, an absolutely fantastic school which promotes determination, discipline and order, achieves exceptional results, academic results. And I really think that schools are a very good place to promote unifying forms of civic engagement. Now, there are white educators who think that this may potentially alienate ethnic minorities. I think, unfortunately, they may well be guilty of foisting their own anti-British prejudices on their ethnic minority pupils.
Indeed, and on that point, Rakib, I don't know about you, but I can't imagine in the United States, if we take that as an example, many people being particularly embarrassed by their national identity. You know, they pledge allegiance to their flag. Why is Britain an outlier in that regard? Why are so many people in Britain, throughout our important institutions, like schools, for example, so embarrassed by national identity in Britain?
Well, I think that in many of our public institutions, Darren, we have far too many individuals who suffer from a white saviour complex. They are ridiculously interventionist when it comes to protecting ethnic minorities. The truth is we have ethnic minority traditionalists across Britain who are very proud of their British identity. They are thriving communities which have taken on all the opportunities that Britain has offered them. And I think that when it comes to singing the national anthem, there are some people who may well say the royal family is a fundamentally racist and outdated institution. But I would make the point that the late Queen was remarkably useful in terms of cultivating social cohesion in our country. Even after she passed away, you could see that when it came to the queue, that there was a diversity of races, ethnicities and faiths represented in the queue. And I think when we're looking at King Charles III, he started his reign in a very similar vein, talking about him being the protector of all faiths in modern day Britain, and the fact that he views Britain as a community of communities. So in a sense, I really think that singing God Save the Queen is a perfectly acceptable form of civic engagement, but one that is very unifying and can help to integrate a diversity of backgrounds into a cohesive national whole.
As you've discussed on this show before, we have a problem in this country when it comes to integration of certain ethnic groups, right? In Leicester, for example, we see that there are tensions between two groups over religious issues. So this sort of move that Catherine is suggesting, bringing in British culture and values to schools, does that, in your eyes, actually start to solve and tackle the difficult questions that politicians seem far too reluctant to actually talk about?
Well, Darren, I think when it comes to the Leicester disorders, what we saw there was subcontinental style sectarianism spilling in the streets of Britain, a regional British city, a regional English city. I think that there's many things that really have to be done in response to the Leicester disorders. But what I will say that Catherine Berbel-Singh, what she's talking about here is how to cultivate a greater social cohesion in the younger sections of our population. And younger sections of our population, there is a great deal of hyper-diversity. And I think that you need a common moral, cultural standard. You need those unifying forms of civic engagement to tie those different groups together. And if you don't, and if you're complacent, or rather you'd be more inclined to celebrate difference over commonality, society, then it can unravel very quickly when there's various tensions which are allowed to fester.
Yeah. And then I wonder if, just to finish up what we're saying there, Catherine also said, she also talked about a march to decolonise schools as soon as possible. I mean, what's your interpretation of the expression decolonising schools? And do you think actually, you know, that's doing more harm than good? Because many of my viewers are totally perplexed by these sort of arguments.
Well, I think that there's a discussion to be had in terms of how British history is taught in our schools. I'm more than happy to have that conversation. Many people are, but I think that the issue that we have there, that there's far too many people in that decolonise the curriculum movement who have a fundamentally warped understanding of British history and heritage. I think that we could talk about a number of things that can help to cultivate social cohesion, Darren. For example, the contribution of ethnic minority groups in post-World War II reconstruction of Britain. Yeah. And I think that when it comes to that, I think maybe we should, in a way, teach history in a way that can really help to enhance a national sense of belonging across a diversity of groups.